What if I told you that nations don't collapse because of war, famines, or political revolutions, not at first? Many nations collapse because of something far quieter, something invisible, something most people never notice until it's already too late. It is a force powerful enough to erase savings overnight, a force responsible for toppling governments, rewriting borders, and turning entire populations into economic refugees. And here's the real mystery. Why does this force hyperinflation seem to strike in the same pattern, again and again, in completely different countries, across different centuries, under different leaders, almost as if history is running on a loop? Why did Weimar Germany in 1923, Zimbabwe in the 2000s, and Venezuela in the 2010s all make the exact same decisions that led their currencies to become worthless? Today, we're going to uncover the hidden mechanics of hyperinflation, where it begins, how it spreads, why it accelerates, and why governments always seem powerless to stop it until the nation is already broken. To understand this force, we need to go back to the beginning, to the first spark that ignites the fire. Hyperinflation doesn't start with money printing, bad leaders, corruption, or political chaos. It starts with something deceptively simple, a government making a promise it cannot afford to keep. To understand this, let's look at three nations, each different, each separated by time and geography, but all connected by the same economic trap. Weimar Germany, rising from the ashes of World War I, Zimbabwe, once the breadbasket of Africa, and Venezuela, sitting on the largest oil reserves on Earth. Each one had the ingredients for stability, resources, trade routes, and thriving populations. And yet all three collapsed economically for the same reason. They built financial systems on promises that required money the government did not have, and instead of cutting spending or raising taxes, they took the path that felt painless. They printed more money. But money printing alone doesn't create hyperinflation. There's a twist you must understand, and this twist is what sets the stage for total collapse. The origins of hyperinflation always begin with a crisis powerful enough to push a government into emergency spending. In Weimar Germany, the country was crushed by war reparations. After World War I, the government didn't want to raise taxes. They feared a political revolt, so they printed money to pay reparations, salaries, and debts. In Zimbabwe, President Robert Mugabe launched a land seizure program that destroyed agricultural output. Exports collapsed, government revenue evaporated, and to pay public workers, social programs, and the military, Zimbabwe printed more money. In Venezuela, oil prices crashed. The government's single source of income, oil exports, fell off a cliff. Instead of cutting spending, Venezuela printed money to maintain subsidies and pay debts. Each nation faced a crisis, each government panicked, and each turned to the same temporary fix. But the key is that the moment citizens lose trust in the currency, hyperinflation accelerates on its own, and once trust collapses, the fall becomes unstoppable. In the early stages, hyperinflation feels harmless, even helpful. Governments pay bills, people receive salaries, and businesses see money flowing. But underneath, the foundation is cracking. As governments print more money, prices begin to rise, imports become expensive, savings lose value, wages lag behind, citizens start hoarding goods, and confidence drops. The spiral begins. In Weimar Germany, prices doubled every few days, workers carried salaries home in wheelbarrows, and bread cost billions of marks. In Zimbabwe, a single egg cost 35 million Zimbabwe dollars, and banks shut down for days because the printers couldn't keep up. In Venezuela, hyperinflation hit 1,700,000%, and people weighed stacks of bills instead of counting them. But the most important part of the rise isn't the numbers, it's the psychology. People begin to realize that money tomorrow is worth less than money today. So they spend faster. Businesses raise prices constantly. The velocity of money accelerates. And the government's reaction makes everything worse. They print even more. Eventually, the system reaches a point where the currency no longer functions as money. Citizens stop saving, stop trusting banks, and stop accepting their own currency, and then the collapse becomes visible. In Weimar Germany, the middle class was wiped out, people bartered furniture for food, and farmers refused to sell crops for paper money. In Zimbabwe, hospitals shut down, teachers and police quit, and millions fled the country. In Venezuela, children starved, electricity failed, and people ate from garbage piles. And the tragedy is that once the currency collapses, so does everything else: healthcare, security, education, food supply, electricity, trade. Hyperinflation doesn't just destroy money, it destroys societies. Hyperinflation creates a new kind of poverty, one that hits everyone at once, regardless of class. The rich lose their savings, the poor lose access to essentials, and the middle class disappears entirely. Millions flee their home countries. Millions starve. Millions watch their life savings turn to dust. And when governments try to fix the problem, they almost always choose the wrong solutions. To stop hyperinflation, governments must do something unpopular: cut spending, restore production, rebuild trust. But most try easier solutions first, solutions that always fail. Venezuela forced shops to sell food at fixed prices. Stores emptied in days and black markets exploded. Zimbabwe printed a $100 trillion note. It changed nothing. Weimar Germany blamed profiteers. Venezuela blamed conspirators. Zimbabwe blamed foreign plots. None of these fixes work because the real problem isn't evil businessmen or foreign manipulation. The real problem is broken trust, and trust, once destroyed, is nearly impossible to rebuild. Here's the part nobody wants to hear. The same warning signs that triggered past hyperinflations are appearing again in multiple countries today. Debt levels are at historic highs. Central banks are printing trillions. Commodity prices are rising. Political polarization is growing. Trust in institutions is declining. Currency devaluation is accelerating. Inflation is surging after global crises. The United States, Europe, Japan, and emerging economies are not on the verge of hyperinflation, but the patterns are familiar. And here's what history tells us: hyperinflation never begins with a disaster. It begins with a decision to ignore the warning signs, to postpone the pain, to print more money because it seems easy. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes loudly. Hyperinflation is never an accident. It's a chain reaction triggered by political decisions, not economic fate. Once trust in a currency collapses, no government, no matter how powerful, can stop the spiral quickly. The strongest defense against hyperinflation is diversification, multiple income sources, hard assets, and awareness of economic warning signs. Hyperinflation doesn't announce itself. It sneaks in through small decisions, small deficits, small compromises. By the time the crisis becomes visible, it's already too late. The question for our generation isn't, could hyperinflation happen again? The real question is, will we recognize the warning signs before history repeats itself? If you want more deep dive videos on global finance, economic history, and the hidden forces shaping the world, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Because the greatest danger in economics is believing it won't happen to you.